We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
We're going to get back into debauchery here on the program. D&D is here on the air. I'm King of Podcasts. Thanks for listening in. Finding the show you always do. kingofpodcasts.com is where you find all the content of this very program. I have to tell you what, man, I have not done a show like this in a while, but you know what? I was always fascinated when I listened to Power 96, the radio station in Miami, South Florida, a very perennial, long-time radio station, a party station, if you will. And I remember listening to Tyrone, Lazaro, and Bo in the morning show over there, and Tyrone Steele, the character's name, and I forget his real name was, but he would play different characters. Tyrone Steele was a character name, and he would play in character throughout the whole morning show. The other thing he would do is also impressions. And one of the guys that he used to like to do impressions of was a news anchor that was on Channel 7 News in Miami, Rick Sanchez. And one of his favorite words to use in Rick Sanchez's voice, yes, the same name Rick Sanchez that you hear in Rick and Morty, which I'm guessing Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon took umbrage and decided to use the name on the show for the character. So Rick Sanchez, the commentator, the news broadcaster from Miami originally, who was also on CNN, who was also on, what was that Russian channel? I forget what it was called. RT, that's what it was. And among other places. He was also on radio as well. Things like that. One of the words they used to like to use for him was always talking about prostitution. Because he did. He always, on Channel 7 News at that time in the 90s, they always talked about stories where, there was rampant crime and prostitution. And he would always say it like that. And I always think of that and always clicks in my mind. Well, if you thought prostitution was dead, because, Backpage and Eros and all these other sites are not out there to go and get out there, well, how about this? Instead of having to go online and looking for girls that are escorts or looking for prostitutes on various really weird sites out there to go ahead and find girls to go and hook up with, guys, you want full debauchery? You don't have to go to your neighborhood massage parlor. No. You can go out to the streets of California. Now, I know I put the part about sex boxes. That's in Switzerland. We're going to talk about that shortly. But I'm going to start first with, I got to start with the sex boxes first. Let's do that first. I wanted to tease the fact that we now have prostitution in place. And if you want to go to a couple of places, I'll tell you a couple of locales you can go ahead and enjoy. California we'll talk about in a minute. But first, let's go ahead and take the praise and debaucherous focus to Switzerland, specifically Zurich. So a story from HeadTopics.com, they have talked about here that, and the source is HeadTopics, is there have been $1.6 million invested in drive-in sex boxes introduced to make prostitution safer. Okay, here it is. So in the story they say, we've all heard of drive-in movies, but Switzerland has gone one better. They welcome drive-in sex boxes to the city of Zurich. These sex chalets are part of an initiative to regulate sex trade, becoming a recent growing problem in recent years. This is interesting. Nine garage-style wooden structures have been erected, no pun intended, in a bid to make prostitution safer. So these sex boxes were passed in November after local citizens voted for it in a referendum. So local citizens said, yeah, take the smut and put it in a box. Customers will have to pass a checkpoint before entering. It opens at 5 a.m. every day. And then a marked route to 40 prostitutes. So you have this isn't real. Okay, let me try this again. Hold on. So if you want to go ahead and enjoy the prostitutes in Zurich, Switzerland, you go to a checkpoint. It starts at 5 a.m. every day. And then there will be 40 prostitutes available for you to choose from. You pick one, negotiate a fee, and then you drive into one of the wooden sheds. The sex workers must purchase a work ticket every night, costing €4.50, enabling them to participate in the safer sex work scheme. So, through roughly a couple of dollars a day or a night, the sex workers must register and pay a small fee to be able to get the nasty done in these sex sheds. Michael Herzig from Zurich's Social Welfare Department explained, "We want to regulate prostitution because until now, it was the law of the jungle. It was the pimps who decided the prices. We are trying to reach a situation which is better for the prostitutes themselves, for the health and security, and also for people who live in Zurich. By the way, if you see the graphic on the program tonight, you see what these sex boxes look like. This looks like a bus stop. Okay, it's a bus stop. There are no tables. There are no chairs. There is nothing here except a big wooden structure, and you close it and you go in. There is a trash can I see. There is, looks like a step. So if you want to get a little bit higher up, oh my God. So I'm guessing the guy gets up on this small curb and jumps on top of it. So he's a little bit taller than the girl. And I'm guessing it's to make it so that the girl can go ahead and she wants to go and kneel and fellatiate the guy. Then she gets to do that. Oh man, let me tell you what. Okay. These things, by the way, you can also see there's a Stop AIDS poster on the sex box as well. It's like this wood is like done out of a summer camp. This is, and by the way, you can peek in almost a little bit because you can see there's ventilation with these things as well. Okay. Moving right along, I just saw that and I was like, this is incredible. Drive-in sex boxes. I'm surprised there are not other stories like this out there. But yes, actually, this is a thing. Can you believe it? Now, this actually has been going on. I'm looking at stories going back to 2013. So this is not the first time they've done it. They're actually just adding them in. This is incredible. So this has been going on for a while. And this is the first time I see about it. So yeah, this is actually a thing, a sex drive-in. So go to Wikipedia. It started in the Netherlands with facilities called Afwerplek, a place to finish the work. And they were opening up those in places like Utrecht in the Netherlands as early as 1986. And in Germany, they have an effectuation box, but with a hint of banality and mundaneness. And in the effectuation box in Germany, it's a football-sized fenced-in space of a former industrial area with gated area, security cameras, and alarm buttons in each stall. Oh, so you can protect the guys or gals that are in there getting their stuff done. Public prostitution. So yeah, there was the first facility in Switzerland, in Zurich, in 2013. And then voters continue to go ahead and allow these things to keep going up. Really? Sex drive-ins or sex boxes. Now let's get back to America. We're a little more civilized here. We just want our prostitutes out on the street. And that's according to the governor, Gavin Newsom, decided, okay, we're going to pass along a law. Now let's for the record, let's go ahead and talk about what he actually said he was going to do. We'll just take word for word. So now, in January of this year, Governor Gavin Newsom of California passed the state's Safer Streets for All Act. It took effect. Made the loitering for the purpose of prostitution no longer a crime. Prohibiting police officers from confronting and arresting trans women and women of color walking the streets. And Newsom said in the bill in July 2022 that the bill does not legalize prostitution. It simply revokes provisions of the law that have led to disproportionate harassment of women and transgender adults. Well, I mean, the police on the street might not even determine if it's a guy or girl out there. So yeah, while this might be protecting trans women and women of color, it doesn't stop prostitution from going. It actually lets it allow to happen. So yeah, and here's the thing. The governor also said that the administration will monitor crime and prosecution trends for any possible unintended consequences and will act to mitigate any such impacts. Well, here we are in October of 2023. 10 months in, and now we have this going on. And I'm going to take from ABC 10 News in San Diego a story that they did a very in-depth issue on the prostitution issue in California. Prostitution.
Some sections of America's finest city aren't the picture-perfect postcard that San Diegans think of. There are neighborhoods where prostitutes are blocking the roads, and their pimps punish anyone who disrupts business. I've spent weeks with 10 News photojournalists in those areas, speaking with people impacted the most. These are the families and business owners whose neighborhoods are under siege by prostitution in plain sight.
So yeah, they have pictures showing up. And Kimberly Hunt here, the anchor here on ABC 10 News, talks about that the Southeast San Diego has become so overrun with prostitution that businesses are packing up and residences are living in fear. Yeah. So the neighborhood's, full of sex workers. Broad daylight. The girls that they show on the hidden camera footage are, scantily dressed. It's like, you want to make sure that there's prostitutes. They are showing you proof positive they are, okay? Small skirts, short shorts, showing body, a lot of skin, doesn't matter. It's kind of like you're seeing strippers now just grazing along the wild of the streets. So anyway, let's go along with the story.
Neighborhoods in San Diego, parts of Shelltown, Barrio Logan, South Crest, into National City look like open-air sex markets. While we're not giving exact locations to avoid attracting more activity to the affected areas.
That is funny. That they wanted to make sure, because, trust me, there are some mongers out there, sex mongers, that will absolutely be looking for their way to find these places. Hey, where's this in San Diego? Could you imagine? Oh, yes, by the Navy Yard. Yes, right by Gaslight District. There we go.
It's so blatant, it's something you have to see to believe. Wee hours of the morning, early morning, noon, and night, our cameras caught prostitutes peddling sex in the middle of the street and a steady stream of Johns driving through. The booming illegal sex trade taking over neighborhoods where people live and work.
It's amazing how much they show here, because in some cases, there's 4 or 5 girls on the street. It's like, this looks like some of the Deuce or something like that. It's like, this is like Times Square. It's rampant. I mean, it used to be a thing with, listen, I used to go and drive down here in West Palm Beach where I'm at, Military Trail. Listen, if guys know around here, 20, 30 years ago, you would see, okay, you go down US 1 and you start at, say, roughly Blue Heron Boulevard. So Singer Island, Riviera Beach. You make that trip all the way down to Lake Worth and you go past, let's say, the Lake Worth Lantana city line. You're going to see rampant prostitution up and down. That's how it used to be. It's been gone now because the sheriff here in Palm Beach County is Rick Bradshaw, and he's cleaned all that up. You don't see any more drug dealers around. If there is prostitution, it's very rampant, and honestly, the remainder that's out there, there's not much. You can see them. But that used to be a thing with friends of mine, that we would count the prostitutes as we were going our way up to the beach. We would start from, let's say, 12th Street, or 18th Street down to Lake Worth Beach is called now, and you take that trip all the way up and you count how many prostitutes you find all the way till we get up there. Let me tell you like this too. Now, when I used to also go out, there were times when I remember going at night, driving Broadway, or US 1 as it's called, through West Palm Beach. Okay, and that's like going from downtown and going up north. And I'm going to tell you this. There were times where you'd see prostitutes at every block on both sides of the street. And it was like, and by the way, in West Palm Beach, they added double street lights. Okay, there's 2 rows of street lights on each corner in Broadway because they were trying to avoid the crime and traffic. Well, the prostitutes over there didn't really care. They just went ahead and they sat on the corners, on the curbs of the street at every block, going 15, 16 blocks. And guys would just stop, whatever, and there you go. And you'd see that constantly. And it was ridiculous. But that's all been gone. And the Military Trail, you'd see the same thing go on. I remember there was a while 10 years ago where the pimps would go ahead and take about 10 or 12 prostitutes, and they would all be on a truck bed, sitting in the truck bed. And then I remember seeing sometimes I'll be driving down Military Trail, and I would see at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe about 4:30 or so, but right before, sunset, when all the guys and the gals are getting out for work for rush hour. And I would see all these, honestly, trashy looking prostitutes getting out of the truck bed and then just scattering across like rats. I kid you not. You would see that, and then they would just go along, and they would just quietly, hide themselves inside of street corners, inside of buildings, all that stuff. But this is broad daylight. They're not even hiding the fact they're out there. They are dressed with nothing on, and they're getting in the cars nothing stopping. Like, I mean, if anybody was watching Cops back in the day, you saw how those prostitution stings they would do. And it would be like the one girl in the decoy. No. It's like that. Like if anybody was out there and didn't realize that the laws were changed like they were in California, you would think this was a sting. You'd think all these girls were decoys, but they're not. They're legitimately there. And they're going out there and they can rampantly just get what they want. And, families are out there in the middle of the day. You got everybody out there. And let's just say there's just more than a majority, like, a lot of people, like almost all, that don't want to see this going on. But it is. And for the guys that are coming out here and just, easily, girl just comes walk up to the car and, drive off. And then you see them getting out and whatever. It's like incredible. More on the story.
People in these neighborhoods tell me stories of being chased with knives, women grabbed by Johns trying to pull them into the car, and that fear of retribution prevents them from showing their face and telling their story. But every father, mother, and business owner I spoke with told me the same thing.
This needs to stop. This needs to stop right now. We got kids. We really got kids. They want to play outside. They can't.
Telling me they can't walk to and from their cars on the street without enduring the nuisance, intimidation, or harassment that comes with this crowd.
Incredible. And I'm just looking here and I'm like, there's just no worried about anything at all. They're just going to go ahead and go out there and do all they want and just easily just go out and just not even care. Incredible. Now, back into the story a little bit more. She's talking to some of the business owners and some of the residents there about what's going on, but more on the story.
On their businesses, the safety of their employees, and what they see happening to the families who have to live in it.
And I feel sorry for them. I mean, as business owners can leave, but they have to deal with this every day.
They describe groups of prostitutes in the middle of the street harassing, standing in front of vehicles, trying to open car doors from early morning to night.
It's difficult when you see the prostitutes walking around and you see a young lady with her baby carriage and baby stroller walking down the street. You can see solicitation going on with young kids playing football in their front yard. You see the school bus drive by and it has to drive around prostitutes in order to drop the kids off. That's nothing these kids should have to see and have to put up with, nor a parent to have to explain to a child what that's all about.
Now, I got to tell you this, too. This ABC 10 station, whoever was doing the footage for this, they were doing lookout, okay? They were staking out this street and just sat out there and grabbed video. Listen, whoever the guy, it was a guy, okay, that came out over here with Kimberly Hunt. Let me just say this. Camera guys. Maybe they went over a couple of days doing this story. Okay, which camera crew is going to go out there, like photographer, is going to go out there and say, I don't want to do this, something. No. Listen, there were guys out there, the camera guys for this station, that are sitting up there on some roof or something like that, hidden, with a hidden camera out there, and they're just, I mean, let's just say it's not hard for them to go ahead and get a close-up, get a girl's ass, show their tits, all this stuff, and just see what they're dressed like, and all of it. But, it was not a problem for these photogs to sit out there and have what looks like hours and hours of footage of this right here for this story. This is a 6-minute story, by the way. What does it say about the news, right? This was not run over 2 segments. Let's just say it like this, be honest. The news right now, there's certain things they can't talk about anymore, right? TV news, local news, they need something to go ahead and keep people's eyeballs on. So here we go. Let's talk about prostitution for 6 minutes on this program. And by the way, we're going to run this on other shows. We're going to run it at 5, 6, and 11, damn it. And they did. Come on. This is wild. But they're not afraid to go ahead and go this route and just say, hey, man, we're just going to run this story on the photogs. We're more than happy to jump in here. And look, I'll tell you like this. So I remember when the local TV every so often will do about prostitution things here. And I remember seeing special reports. And let me tell you, I remember watching, what was it, Channel 12, I think it was. WPEC here in West Palm Beach. The CBS station. And I remember they did a story like this. And all I remember was they might have had like about a couple of minutes of footage. And I remember they kept showing the same girl that was on crack, that was like barely able to walk, and you could see her from behind, and she's like flailing her arm back behind her head and behind her back. Like it was just something weird. But they kept going back to that. But that was like, they didn't take that much time to put footage. It's like, you know why? Because in West Palm Beach, it wasn't hard to kind of find the footage. Just get done. But these guys got more than enough footage. But this is done where they're shooting it day and night. So who are these guys here that are doing the footage here, and also the editors, by the way, getting enjoyment in doing the story? Let's just say like that. Okay. The debauchery doesn't just go on the street with the prostitutes. It also goes with the people on this TV station, you know, glorifying prostitution and debauchery, and the state allowing it. Like, come on. Doesn't that just kind of like surprise you? I think it's funny. I'm amused by this. It's not right. It shouldn't be good that these kids and all these people out there and business owners in the middle of the day, they're getting harassed by these prostitutes, because you can see them on the middle of the street. They're coming up to the windows and like, hey, you know, it's like something on a Full Metal Jacket, you know. Me so honey. No, we don't need that. Come on. And by the way, I also must say, for the governor to say, hey, you know what? You know, we don't want to go ahead and dispute or discourage any trans women or women of color. Okay, I did see women of color. I also see women that are body positive. Body positive. Different various cultures, creeds, color, races, like, you know, very diverse. The diversity, equity, inclusion were definitely on the menu for the prostitutes that were out there in the streets here. Okay. Listen, I don't say anything about it. Sex work, you know, I wouldn't care if it was legal or not, because, you know, I mean, obviously, if it was controlled, if you want to have it where, you know, like in other countries, you got a love motel, you got a sex box, you got a Everplank or whatever they call it in the Netherlands. Like, if you want to do that, or you have, like, you know, Dominican Republic, you got resorts, or Colombia, or all these other places, you have places that are controlled environments, where if you want to have brothels or prostitution, then get it off the street. I mean, that's the thing that I would say would be the most. Listen, for me, like, I don't care about legal. I mean, I'm fine with legalizing prostitution. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of cannabis and psychedelics and all the different vices we have out there. The depravity and debauchery that we have out there in the first place, let it happen. Just make it legal. It don't matter to me. But when I see this here, and I'm saying to myself, all right, to have it just out there rampant on the streets like that, yeah, no. You want to do this? I think the Swiss and the Germans and the Dutch, they got it right. They control the prostitution is rampant over there, but they control it. They put it somewhere else, out of the public eye, which is what they should do in California. Listen, Governor Newsom, you're not listening to this program, but you know what? You want to make it safer streets. The thing is, you don't need to have these women, or, you know, wherever their persuasion is or whatever their gender is, transgender, male, female, out there on the streets trying to score a date for whatever. Yeah, on the street shouldn't happen. But then just allow it where people can go wherever they want to go. Like, you want to go and take them to a club or another place? All right, then do that. A controlled environment. If you want to allow prostitution to happen, then just put it somewhere. But don't let them just go wander to the streets. It's as simple as that. Now, there are some conservative types that are going to be like, oh, prostitution. Ooh. I know. You completely curb it and this and that. Fine. But you know what? You're not going to change it if a certain state's going to go ahead and want to do it. So, fine, you passed a law. Legislature went along with it. I don't know if the people there in California were completely in favor of it. I'm sure there are those that are very religious minded that probably do not want to see this. But if it's going to be allowed, then take it off the streets. It's like the drug dealer. Listen, so they can go to a drug house, then guys can go find a brothel, or girls can find a brothel, whatever they want. They can go find that and go get what they want out of there, okay? They don't need to go through this. Let me continue this ABC 10 story just to finish things up.
firsthand. We were behind an SDPD cruiser as it passed by prostitutes clearly walking the streets for sex.
This bill's made it very difficult for us to respond.
These, like all the people we've seen while shooting this story, appear to be adults. This is not a story about sex trafficking of minors, which I have reported on for years in an effort to eradicate crimes against children. On the same night, a prostitute screamed through the car window at me and my photographers, threatening that we better get off the street before we get blanked up. We saw almost a dozen SDPD units in the area. On one corner, officers surrounded a man on the street. A half block away, officers were near an apartment complex. But both incidents involved crimes that come with pimps carrying guns and residents being threatened. As for the prostitutes, unless they're caught in the act, occasionally being brought in and spending a couple of hours being booked seems to just be the price of doing business.
All that.
Now, here's the thing, too. So, again, the cops can't do anything. And because these prostitutes are just on the street, you're allowing the crime to happen. You're creating the gateway for crime, for a criminal act. Okay? It's one thing for the prostitutes to be out here on the street, but hey, the Johns have to come in to commit the act of crime. It's one thing to be, a woman that's going out there, but it still has to be the act of the solicitation of prostitution, which is initiated by the John, accepted by the prostitute, money is exchanged, services exchanged, there you go, but it's going on the street. The thing is that it's just like drugs. It's like you're just seeing these people out here that are going there for the purpose of crime. And the crime that's being done, the police can't even touch. What good is that? But it's what they have definitely gotten a problem with. And there's a lot of stories talking about it. And no one has any answers out there. By the way, they also talk about the fact that the pimps are out there, like 10 or 20 of them out there playing their music, bumping and just doing their thing, laughing, partying, and sometimes they come and fight. There's nothing more that's being said about that can be changed about it. It's just happening, and it's bad. And I just look at what there's more going on. I see New York Post talking about it, and they got pictures here, and it's like, it's just, by the way, Los Angeles, also the same problem. So LAPD has told the New York Post that prostitutes will perform sex acts for as little as $40 selling their bodies for $160 or less at a time. So you can go ahead and get something right now for $40, as little as $40 in Los Angeles. And some sex workers right now claim they can make up to $1,000 a night and have regular clients and who will fly on the way to exotic locations. So girls, if you've got an apartment right now that you're paying $4,000 a month, you can actually make up your rent in 4 nights. So is that what you want to do? I mean, come on. And as part of loitering rules, officers are no longer allowed to stop the women to offer for help unless they look underage. By the way, and Kimberly Hunt mentioned that point. We're not talking about sex trafficking. These are adult women out there, totally of age, out there hooking up to make some money. And there you go. It's like, this is constant. This is like going on. And by the way, in the area, let's make this point too, that in Los Angeles County, or in Los Angeles proper, that were 51 rapes in the area that have been reported so far this year, which has to be the fact that some of the prostitutes are getting assaulted and attacked, which is not good either. Again, controlled environment, not in the middle of the main streets. That shouldn't be happening. And then they talk about the LAPD area where the red light district is located, that 95% of the women who are working have pimps and are closely tied to street gangs. This is not safe. This is not good. So they also talk about, in the story in Los Angeles, they did talk about how officers rescued a 14-year-old who was trafficked by a pimp at the Figueroa Street corridor, which is one of the areas that is rampant between 96th and 98th streets in Los Angeles for prostitution. And the area is called the Track. Gang territory, various factions of Bloods and Crips controlling nearby streets. And they were out there at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, seeing girls wearing barely their G-strings and waving the motorists as they passed on by. And I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, Jesus, man, it's just out there to be seen. Talk about some real depravity and debauchery. Let me tell you what, that is crazy, but it's out there. So guess what? I mean, it's as simple as this. You want to go to Los Angeles, Figueroa Street, or You want to go over to, you know, I don't know. If you want to go to Figueroa Street there between 96 and 98th Streets in Los Angeles, want to go to San Diego and go look where Kimberly Hunt, maybe you saw some landmarks out there. You want to go and see where those are. Maybe some taxi drivers, some Uber drivers will tell you where that's at. You know, maybe you can go ahead and enjoy yourself a little bit of fun on the streets of San Diego or Los Angeles. Or, you know, go find yourself in a sex box in Zurich, Switzerland. Because, you know, no matter what, it's all these different places where you can be, oh my God, where you can be a little depraved and debaucherous.